So build an NPM package starting from a simple hello world function published to NPM all the way to the file storage NPM package with Typescript. If you haven't watched the file storage project, check the link in the description. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notification for more videos. So the first thing to do when creating an NPM package is to first of all create an account with the NPM. So I've already created an account here, and you also need to configure 2FA, two-factor authenticator. So the next thing we need to understand is the naming of npm package. So if I search for let's search for next, let me say any package like bcrypt, uh, we should see that by giving the name here, we can see the package name and the package description here. So you need to understand that there are two ways to define a name in npm. So we have the default one, which I can type. You can give it like bcrypt, and this will give us the name and the description. But we need to also know that in npm, name you define must be unique. So you cannot use a name that is already existing in npm or close to lookalike to another package in npm. There are other ways you can create npm, which is called the organization, and you can see that here. You can see the @ symbol. So you can create an npm package. You can define a name of an npm package with the @ symbol, and then you can give this slash here. So what this means this is an organization, and this organization can create multiple packages inside this organization. So we can have bcrypt clients, we can have bcrypt core, we can have different name, and you can see if I go and search for Babel, we should see different packages under the Babel. Yeah, you can see that here at Babel register, at Babel preset TypeScript. So different packages. So if you want to use the organization naming, you have to create an organization. And if you come over here, you can look at add organization. So I already have my packages, and I've already created upload next. If I go into packages and I come over here, you can see if I go to organization, we can see upload next. And if I go into upload next, you can see I have one package there. So this is an organization. But if you can see other packages that are not under organization, I just defined there. So basically, this is how to name the package. So let's go ahead to the code and let's create the first package. So the first thing we're going to do is to initialize our npm. So I'm going to delete this readme here, and inside this SDK, I'm going to just say, okay, I'm going to create a separate folder. Let's first of all create an hello world folder here. So let me come over to the uh, let's say hello world. Hello world package. I'll save that. So so then I've created the folder. Let me navigate into the folder. So I'm going to close this, and then let me the cd hello world, and then let's say npm init -y. So let's click on enter and let's this setup. So now we've initialized create the npm the package JSON. So I'm going to close my terminal, and then let me click on this. So what we're going to do first is the naming. So I'm going to use say hello world. And then the next thing we need to understand is the versioning. So we need to understand that the first zero you see here, the first one here we're seeing here is called the major changes. That's major. The next zero here is called a minor, and the last zero is called a patch. So patch is just like bug fixes. Minor is just for the features, maybe a new feature. Why major is like changes let's say the new version is going to break some changes in the old one, like new package updates of the let me say existing packages you are using to create the package. You want to make some changes there, so you can set the versioning to you can update the version. That is the major one here. So the next thing we're going to see here is the main. This is going to define the entry part of the package. And since we're going to be using TypeScript, we're going to build our package into JavaScript. And to do that, we're going to create a folder and we're going to call this Dix folder. So here we're going to just say dot slash Dix slash index.js. So instead of index.js, we are going to be using, so let's change this to CJX. So this is going to be CommonJS. And we also want for the MJS, which is the module, like um other dev using our package, we need to use it in TypeScript, and we are building a TypeScript package. So we need to define the module. So the module we're going to create, we're going to say dot this slash index.mjx. So we need to understand that we're going to be using TSUp to compile our project, our TypeScript into both CommonJS and MJS. And we also need to define the type. So we can say types, yeah, not types. And these types we're going to, which TSUp is going to create for us, we're going to call this sticks slash index dot d dot tx. So this is how you're going to, this is how it's going to be defined in the this folder. So then we need to also define keyword. So inside the package, inside the npm package, the keyword will be shown below. So we can define the keyword. I'll just give this a very simple hello, and then I'll just say word like this. Then we can define the author. I can just give this a random name. I'll just say tech with Ima. Then we can give this a license. You can call this MIT, or you can use the Apache 2.0. Yeah, so it depends on the one you want to use. So we have the description. So I'm going to move the description to the top, and I can say, let me remove this comma here, and then I'm going to say this is an hello world, say hello world function package. I'll just give it like that. So then we are almost done. So the next thing we're going to do, let's define files. Files can be, we can say files telling the package that which of the uh, which of the folder here you want to exist available in npm. So you can leave it, it does not matter, but you can still put it there if you want. So the next thing we're going to do now is the script. So let's define the script. So before we define the script, we need to install uh, TSUp and TypeScript. So let's open our terminal and let's clear the terminal and say npm install sorry, dev dependency um, TSUp and TypeScript. So let's wait for this to install. So this has installed. So let me close my terminal, and now let me close. So let me open this again, and here, yeah, we can see the dev dependency here. So now what we can do, we can just remove let me remove this, and then let's say build, just put TSUp. So in order for this to work, we need to also configure TSUp. So we can create tsup.config.tx here. So I'll say ts up.config.tx here. So now we need to import and define config from tsup, and then we can say export and default. So define config, and let's open an object here. So the first thing we need to do, we need to define the entry. So I'll just say entry, and you can define the entry with an array or an object. So I'll just prefer to use the array, and in the array we're going to tell TSUp which of the packages you want you other devs or other users to use to get entry part for it. So I'm going to say we want the entry part to be the index.tx. So let's create an index.tx here. So I'm going to just say uh, no, let's create a folder first. So I'll say src, and then inside the src folder we're going to say index.tx here. So I'm going to go back into the ts sub, and I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to define dot src slash index.tx. So if you want to define the type, let's say for instance, you import, let me close this. I say import like this, or say from say hello world. I can just get the um say hello, which is the function like this. But if I want to get the type, if I want to get the type directly, instead of defining it here, I can say say hello type. Uh, let's put the type here, and then I can define slash type, and then this is going to also allow um, TSUp to define the type file when in the this folder. So like this is okay, but we can also just export everything inside the index.tx. Then you can just get the say hello type here like this. So there are different way we can do that. So let me just remove all of this, and now let's complete the configuration. So the next thing we need to do, we need to define the format. We need to tell TSUp what we need. We need the ESM and the CJS, common JX. Then we need to define TDS, which is going to generate the Typescript. So I'm going to say true. Then we can say shims, which is going to generate a shim for Node.js, just like built-in module. I mean, I'll just say we can define this to true or false if you want. Then we can also define source map to true or false if you want to allow debugging. Then we also have a skip node module bundle, which is true. We can say just skip bundling the node module. Then we can define clean true. So this will clean the disk folder before each build. Then we also have the option to minify. If you want, you can set this to false or you can set this to true. You don't want so you want to keep it readable for debugging if you want. So I'll just set this to false like this. So we're done with this now. The last thing we're going to create here before we go ahead and create the walk into inside the index.tx is the ts config. So I'll say ts config dot json, and then inside I'm going to paste the and then you can see the compiler option. We have the target, we have the module. You can use the ES next, or you can use the common JS here. We have the root directory, which is the source. We have the out directory, which is the disk folder. Then we have the include and then the exclude. I mean, sorry. So now we are done with this. So the next thing we're going to do now is to create the index.tx. So inside the index, the best approach to do to handle our package, we can leave the index.ts for exporting uh, all of the files like the folder, I mean the functions you've defined, the types, all of the inside the index. So because we want to create an hello world function. So what I'll do is I'll create a file here. I'll just call this function. You can call this anything .tx, and then I want to also create a file. I'll call this types.tx here. So now I want both the function and the type. I'll export everything inside the index.tx. So let's create a simple hello world function. So we need to also know some functions. You can make them public. You can make them internal. Anyone you export here will be regarded as public. Users can or dev can port packages from the index.tx. Yeah. So just note that. So I'm going to make both the function types, all of them public, and in the upload next in the file storage package, which we are going to define in the SDK folder, we're going to create later on. We are going to see how to exclude the internal package, internal functions or internal source code from being used by the public. So let's go into the function. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to close. I'm going to say export function say hello, and there I'm going to take and allow props to be, I mean, argument to be passed or props. I'm going to just like this. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the public to pass name and age. Then we need to define the type. So what I'm going to do is I'll go into the type file and then let's create a type. So I'm going to say export type say hello props and I'm going to make age optional. So I'll copy this and say hello props, come into the function file, and then let me just import it here. So I'm going to just say let's define the say hello props here, and then let me just import it here. Say import uh, say hello prop from types, and the error should stop. So what we're going to do, we're going to say console.log, and I'm going to say hello, and let's just say I'm passing the name, and then we'll check if age. If age, then we can say console dot log, and then we say so let's open this. Say you are set the age, say yes, old, and save that. So now we are done with the function, the say hello function, and we also have the type. So we can come into the index.txt and just export everything. I'll just say export everything from function, and we can just say the same thing for types. So now with this, we can just on the when we are testing this, we can just say import say hello, and also we can also get the say hello props or types like this. So basically, this is how we are going to get this from inside the index.txt here. So we can also have the option to tell our package or to allow users to use to get the default say hello. So instead of using the structuring like this, we can just say hello from the package name. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just say export say hello. Let me just cut this out. Then I'm going to say from dot function. Then what I'm going to say as default here. And then this is going to allow the user to just get the function directly from the package. But the best option is to just use the destructure method. You can just exclude this if you want, if you don't want it to be like that. So only if for me, I will only use this when I'm using class inside the package. So I'm going to just leave it like this, and let's go back to the package.json, and then we need to also define export. So by default, we are telling and the package that's npm that the entry file is the index.txt, index.mj, and index.dtx. So if you also want the user, like I said before, you also want the user to directly access the types instead of calling the whole package like the index.ts, which has all of the whole exports here. If you have so many files, like so many functions, we are exporting everything here. You might want the user to directly get only the types from the. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we can just say and define export here. So now we can have multiple entries here. So just say the first entry is dot, which is going to be the index, which is this index.cjs or index.mjs. Then I'll just say like this, and the next one I'm going to say import, and then I'll just define this slash index types.mjs. You can just copy this and just say require then CJX. So you can see that once the user is on JX common JX project is going to just use the require, but if in TypeScript you can use the import, that's the module. So now we can also define um, types here, and then we can just copy all of this, bring it here, and just say types mjs, copy this to say types and CJS. So you can use these two method. You can use this. You can also remove this. If you don't have any other entry, you can just remove the export. This is still the same thing with this, so there's no point now. So I'm just going to leave it, and then inside the TS sub, you can also add it here too. So I'm just going to go back to package.json and let's just copy types. They come inside ts.config, and then I'm going to just say sorry. It should be src types dot types.tx ids. So let's try and build this package. So I'm going to open my terminal and let's say npm run build, and let's see. So make sure you're inside here, and you should see that this has built the packages for us, and you can see the ASM and CJS, and you can also see the DTX here. So if we open the this folder, you can see that we have the the MCS. We also have the index.dtx. We also have index.jx, and you can see also it's also created the type because we define the type here, and this is going to show the file inside here. If you remove this, it's just going to compile everything inside the index.tx. So now we are done with this. So how are we going to test this? So I'm going to say clear this terminal, and then to test this, let's create a simple script here. So inside the SDK, I'm just going to create a very simple script. I'm going to just say let me go out from this. Sorry, let me close this. Let me go out and let me go into SDK, and let's do npm init -y, and then let's initialize npm here. And then inside here, we have let's just create a file. So I'm just going to say I'm just going to say text.jx here. So inside the package JSON, I can also define module. I can also define a module. Sorry, not module. I can say type. I just say module here, and this will just allow us to import with the module. So now let's go into index.t and test.js. So we already have this. So what we're going to do is let me open my terminal, and then I'm going to cd out of this, and then let's see inside the hello world. So there are two ways to test this locally. I will just go into hello world. Um, sorry, hello, and then we can just say npm link. So by defining npm link, we are telling npm that it should make this a global, link this as a global package, and then we can install this package inside the SDK. So this is just the first approach. This is just one of the approach. There are different way you can do it. I'm going to show you that. So let's do npm link. And once we say npm link, this will link the hello world package. You can just say npm on link, and if we just to help, and we uh, should look for npm. You can see npm link, and we should have on link here. Yeah. So that's it. So I've already linked this package. So I'm just going to let me create a new let me just move away from this cd, and then enter into SDK. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say npm link, and I'm going to define the package. So I just go inside here and go into the package, and let's copy the name. So copy the name, and then let's specify the name here. And if we say npm link, you should see this will install the package, and you should see node module inside here. And if you open the node module, you should see say hello and world, and this will just copy the entire code we have here inside this package, but it's just going to import the file from this folder, and you should see the entry point. So I'm just going to close this now, and now let's click on text.js, and then inside here, since we've already defined the package to module, we can just import this like this. We can say import like this from say hello world like this, and then I can just get the say hello function here, and then I'll just say hello, and then let me just say name John and age 30. So I'm just going to save that, and then let me just run. Let's run this text.jx. So I'll put my terminal. I'm going to switch this to. Let me run this now. Just say node text.jx. So this is going to fill for me in Git patch. So let me just try and change this to window and terminal. So I've changed it. So let me just run this now. I'll just say node text.jx, and we should see hello world, and you are 30 years old. So if I remove the age, let's remove the age. I just save this and then run this again, and you should see hello John. So we see that our package is running. And let me just try and delete this package, this node module. So I've deleted everything here. Now let's try and install this again. So the other way to install this is just to use just say npm install, and then we can just define the part of where the package is. So I just say hello world like this, and if I click on enter, this will install the package. Sorry, hello world. Why is not okay? So this is let me go back into this git patch. And then let me just say, let's do it here. npm install. Sorry, let me do slash hello world like this. Let's see. Okay, let's try. Okay, let me add another dot here. Sorry, guys, I'm making so many mistakes. So this should work now, and we can see that it's installed the package. And if you go into package.json, I'll close this, and you can see file, and this is pointing to the say hello. And if we try and run this, I need to go back to command. Let me clear this CLS, and then I'm going to say node text.jx, and you see that it still work. So this is how we're going to and let's test it again, and we see that it's working. So this is how we are going to install this package. So this is how we're going to set up the package. So to run this, to publish this to npm, we are going to first of all test how the packages is going to be pushed to npm. So the first thing we're going to do is let's add our git ignore and also npm ignore. So I'm just going to come back into the hello world function, hello world folder, and then let's create dot git ignore. So I'm just going to close this, and then I'm going to just paste this here. So we are going to We're going to remove the this when we're pushing to GitHub, and we're going to remove the env and node module. So let's create the .npm ignore, and then inside the npm ignore, we are going to remove the node, the node module, the src, and also the env. So I'm just going to paste it here. So we don't want the src folder since we already have the this already here. Npm is just going to push this folder, and we're going to also remove this. We don't need this uh, in the npm package. So this is just for dev dependency stuff. Yeah. And then the next thing we can add here, we can add the readme.md, and this is going to define the detailed the documentation you see in npm. Like you can just say hello, say hello package, and this can just be the title that will show in npm. Then the last thing we also need we can do, you can also define the repository. You can say repository, and you can just define the http github repository here, just like this. So we're done with this. And if you just open the terminal and then run this, um, then before publishing, we can just run npm pack dry, and this will just show us what we published to npm. If I click on enter, and this is going to output all of the files that's going to sorry, this is nice. Let me cd out of this, and then cd into underscore hello, and then let me just run this again here, and then we should be able to see this folder, and you can see all of the files that is going to be published that's going to be published to npm, and you can see the file name, and then you can see the say hello 1.0.1 1.0.0 total file system package size 1.7, and then you can see all of this. So basically that is it. And then to publish this package to npm, we need to use the npm log. So I'm just going to say npm help, and then if I open it, you see npm log logout here. So if you write, if you just say npm log, this is going to show you a link. You can open this in your browser, and this is going to if you copy this and paste it, you're going to log in. So I've already logged in, and there is no need for me to do this. I'm just going to cancel this. So I'll clear my terminal, and if I want to publish this, I'll just say let's do npm help again, and let's see this. And we should see npm publish. So I'll just say npm publish here, and this is going to publish a package to npm for me. And you should see it's complaining that okay, I'm not logging. So let me log in. So I'm going to just copy this and just or press any browser, and this will just open. And what you see, this is asking me for password. So I'm just going to type in the password here. So now this has logged me in. You can see authentication successful. So I'll go over back to the code, and then let's see this. So okay, this has logged in. So let's try and publish this again. And you should see publishing. I think I'm thinking the package. Let's try and change the package name. It says there's no permission to publish. This will publish. We've already logged in already. So let me try and then change this package name. So I just say hello world, say hello world, um, um, say hello world function. Yeah. Let me just do like this, and let's try it again. So it works. So it was because of the name. So if I go over back to npm, and then let me go back to my npm here, and let me search for. Let me just reload this. and let's search for say hello world function. This is not showing. Let me just go over to my package, to my account, click on packages, and then if I go over here, I should be able to see say hello function. And if I click on this, we should see say hello, and then we can see the keyword, and then we should see 1.0.1. We can click code, and you should be able to see the this folder and then all of the code inside here. So that is it. So let's go ahead and start. Let's go ahead and build our file storage package now. So now let's go ahead and start to create it. So make sure you already have your code here. We can see I have the backend and client. So we're going to make use of the backend to test this, since we're going to get the API from here. So let's go into SDK, and let me just remove all of this package adjacent this node module, and I'm going to just remove this here. So let me just collapse this. So inside here we're going to use TypeScript here. So let's just do the same thing we did here. So I'm just going to copy these two here, copy them. Let me go into SDK and let me just paste it here. Then let me just copy the git ignore and the node npm ignore. Copy this and also paste it here. And then let's create the SRC folder here. And then inside the SRC folder, we need to create the index.tx. So I'll say index.tx here. So now we need to install TSUB and also the TypeScript. So I'll just clear my terminal, and then I'm going to from this I'm going to the cd SDK, and then let's do npm install and dev dependency TSUB, and then we're going to also install TypeScript. We're going to also install let's install type and ts type node. Then we're going to also install let's just install this package. This will help us for clearing this, and then you can just say install, and then this should install the uh package. So I made a mistake here. Let me cancel this. This should be 1F. So I'm going to click on enter, and this should install it. So this has installed the package. So I'm going to copy this and let's go into package.json, and then let's close this and let's update this. So I'm going to add the script here. Let me remove this. So while we define this, we're going to be able to clean this anytime we put. So I'm going to just come over here and let me change this to upload next. So I already have um the organization. So I'm just going to define a package name here. I'm going to say at upload next slash let me use should I use core, or let me just use SDK. Yeah, like this. Then I'm going to leave it to 1.0. Then let's also change this to dix slash index.cjx. Then I'm going to just remove this. I'm going to change this to types. Then I'm going to say dix slash index.d.tx. And then for the module, we're going to say dot slash dix slash index.mjx, like this. And then we are going to also define the author. I'm just going to say let's say tech with Ima, and then let me use Apache 2.0 or MIT, and then let me just move this and let me define the um, the description here. Sorry. So I'm just going to, so I've added the description, the repository. So I'm just going to change this to upload next SDK, and then I'll also define the keyword here. So I'm just going to remove the dev dependency. So we're going to install form data. So I'm going to say npm install form data. So we're going to use form data for uploading the files for Node MongoDB. So the form data is not your normal form data in browser. So this is going to be form data for Node for our Node server. So before I install that, you should check. We should be able to see form data here. And I think we are done with this. We're going to come back and we're going to learn how we are going to be changing the version without doing it manually. So we're going to be using change and change slots, change set. So we're going to look at that later on. So we are done with this. So the first thing I'm going to do, if I go back to the backend folder, and then we should be able to see, if we go back to constant, remember we have this upload allowed main type. So I'm just going to copy this and then I'm going to create a constant folder here. Sorry, inside here. I will call this constant, and then inside here I can just say I will call this file types under tx here, and I'm going to just paste it inside here. So I've pasted it here. Just make sure everything is the same thing. So if make sure you have this backend. If you've not watched the first video, you can check that in the you can check the video in the link in the description. So I'm just going to go into Malta and make sure that everything is the same thing. So I'm just going to make sure I copy all of this, come back here, and then let me just make sure everything is the same thing here. And once you copy that, we need to also define the type. We can see allowed main type of allowed main type number. So if I hover over this, you can see the type is message for you. So once you say that, the next thing we're going to get from our backend is the errors. So if I go over to utils and click on app errors, we should be able to see how we define our custom error. So we're going to also have that in our package. So I'm just going to close this here. And then let me define this error outside the directory here. So I'm just going to open this and I'm going to go errors.txt here. And inside here, we're going to define the errors. So, and also, we also have the enum error code. You can see the error code here. So I'm just going to take some out of this and then let's define it inside the error. So I'm just going to just say validation error, unauthorized, upload failed, request file invalid, and then network error. And then let's say export, close this, export class, upload, and next error. I'll just say extends from error, and then we're just going to use the public, just the same thing we did here, status, uh, status code number, and then we're going to also have public error code. Just define the error code here. Then we can just say constructor. Let me just go ahead and just copy all of this here. So I'll go back to utils and then go into app error, and then let me just copy this constructor here. So I just copy this. We're just going to copy only the top. Let me just copy this here. Sorry, not this one here. I mean this one. So I'll copy this here. Then let me go back to my error. So this error should be inside the SRC. So I'll just close this and then let me just paste it here. Then here I'm just going to remove. I'm just going to set this to 500. So we don't have HTTP status here. And the error code, I'm just going to just set this to upload error code, and I'm just going to remove the optional here. And then this should, so we have the super, we have the error code. We can just say this dot name. This is going to be equals to this dot constructor. Let me copy this. Sorry, that's name like this, and this should be fine. So now we can just define all of this error here. So I'll just paste that here, and we should be able to see the validator validation error, just similar to what we already have inside our project. We have the unauthorized error, we have upload error, we have network error, we have invalid error. So now we have these two files now. Now we have the constant and the error. So let's go ahead and then start working on the main project. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create the upload clients file here. So remember in the other example, we are leaving the index.ts to export all of the other files inside here. So I'm going to just create a file here now. I'll call this upload client.txt here. So this is where we're going to define the class, and we're going to import it inside index. So remember I said I'm going to be using class. So if you've seen other packages that we have to do a new upload next by this. So this is just class. So initializing the class, you just say client is equals to this, and then we can use client. We can use client dot upload like this. So basically that's what I want to do. So I'm going to define that with class. So I'm going to close this now, and let's start to define this. So remember, we're going to also set the type. So the first thing we're going to do is to set the default API. So I'll say default API route, API URL. And for sorry, and then for backend there we are using we have the uh HTTP localhost 8000, I think so. I go over to my env. Yeah, 8000. So let me close this, and then we're going to also change it back to the one we deployed, like the API how to deploy. So let's test it with localhost first. So I'll say HTTP localhost slash 8000. Sorry, 8000 slash API slash v1. Remember, inside the backend we have, if you go inside the route, we have the public and we have v1, and then inside there you should be able to see v1 here. So that's it. So I will go back into my upload client, and then we've defined the API. So now we need to set the class. So export class, I'm going to call this upload next client. So now we're going to open this, and the first thing we're going to get from the user, we're going to say private API key, and this is going to be string. Then we're going to also have private. We're going to say is browser. So the reason we are asking the user to pass if it's browser is because by default we are not going to be able to know if it's a browser. Just like the way so majorly it's just for the Next.js. If you're using Next.js API or server action, it works like browser form data if you're using form data inside here. So I just want to make sure I'm using specifying this. So if it's browser, we're just going to just basically use the fetch to to upload the file directly from here. But if it's not browser, we just default to using Node.js, and for Node.js we're going to be using this package. We're going to be using HTTP and HTTPS. So instead of fetch for Node.js, and in Node.js we are going to be, you can be using buffer or the paths. So we need to make sure and to use fetch with it is not going to really work. So I'm just going to use the HTTP and HTTPS package. So we are done that now. Let's create a constructor. So I can say constructor, and then let's define options here. And then we can just define the type. So I just open this, go into, let's create a type file. I'll just say types .tx, and then inside here we can just say upload next client options, and let's just copy this, and its browser is first. So I'm just going to close this, and then let me just paste it here and import this. So now inside here we're just going to say we're going to first of all define if not option dot API key, then we can just throw new unauthorized error. I'll just say API key is required, just like this. Then below here we can just say this dot API key is equals to option dot API key, and I will say this dot is browser is equals to option dot is browser, and we can just set it to false if not been passed. Then now we need to now create the pass all of this inside the method, and that method is going to be our upload method. So I'm going to say async upload. We can call this upload, or I'll just call it upload files, and then I'm going to just call it like this. And then inside here I'm just going to say files is going to be we're going to define the type for this. So I'm just going to go ahead and create the type. So let's go into types, and then let's come inside here. So the first thing we're going to define is the input. So I'm just going to say upload input is either file, blob, buffer, or string. So this can be either file, being passed, or bob, or a buffer, or string here. So then we're going to also define the response here. Also the request. So let's say export interface, or we can use type for this. Let me just use interface. I'll just say upload file. Sorry, let's first of all do the request here. Request options here. I'll just duplicate this and change this here to upload response here. So let's just do response. Response is message, a string, and then files. This is going to be array. You can use array. Let me just do it like this. I just say file ID string, and then I'll say URL. I don't think we are defining any URL. Just say original name, string, then size, number, and then the main type is going to be string. So this response is gotten from the backend SRC, and if we go over to the service, if you click on files, you should be able to see when we upload files. When we upload the files here, if I go over back to upload files, and if I click here, we should be able to see the success data. Okay, and we should be able to see file ID, original name, size. Okay, we forgot to pass the extension. So I'll copy the main type, and if I go over to controller files, upload files here, we should be able to see the results here. We should see message. This is data. data and then field count number. Okay, I think it's here. Okay, this is data. So let me change this. So I'll go back into the package and then let me go into type, close this, and then let me add extension string. I'm going to change this to data here. And this should work. So we also need to define upload request options. Yeah. We're going to see how we're going to use that. So let me just say method and string, and we're going to say headers, a record, a string, comma string, and then we're going to also have the body. And now we need to set form data, which is going to just be the browser on, and then we're going to import the node, the one we install. So we're going to just call it import node form data. So you can just name it any name here. So I just say form data. So I call this node form data so it doesn't clash with this one. So I'm just going to import this here like this, and then this should be fine. So now let's go back to upload client, and then inside here let's just import upload inputs. Upload inputs type here, and then we're going to also say in case a list was being passed, we just say upload inputs like this, and then we can just say the response here promise. Just open this tag. I'll just say upload file, upload file. So let me go back into the type. Okay, upload response. Let me just change this to upload next response type here. So I'll go back into this, close this, and then let me paste this here, and then let me import this. And now we should see this should work now. Now we can just say return upload files, and then we're going to say files, and we're going to pass in the option. So we're going to go ahead and create this method. So I'm going to pass in the API key. Yeah, I'm going to say this dot API key. Then I'm going to say API URL. I'll just say default API URL. Then I'm going to say is browser, and then let's say this dot is browser like this. So now let's go ahead and then create this. So it's saying we don't have initializing. So I found the issue. I think I made a mistake here. I think I had the error stopped. So let's go ahead and create this file. So I'll open this and let me create a folder. So I want this to be inside a folder. You can just define it inside here. It does not matter. So I just call this upload file, and then we're going to define index.txt inside here. And then inside here, let me close this. So what we're going to do here, we're going to define the function. So I'll say export async function, and what's called is upload files. And there we're going to just set the, let me leave the return. I'm just going to say files. It's going to be upload input or upload inputs array like this. So then we're going to also define the options here. So I'm going to say options. Let me extend from that. I'm going to say type upload options extend. Sorry, let me use interface here. Extend from upload um upload options like this. And I'm going to just put API URL string like this. Then I'm going to use upload options and just pass it here. So inside here, we didn't define the, if you go into here, we didn't define API, this thing here. So I'm just going to go back to upload client. Sorry, upload client here. And then let me index.tx. So inside here, we're going to, let's start to get, you say constant. I say should use browser. You're going to say option dot is browser. Else we just set this to, okay, we can just say like this. Like this is okay. Just say should use browser, option is browser. Now we should just say let's form data. And we're going to set the type here. We're going to say form data is going to be browser form data or node form data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say type browser form data is equals to the normal form data. And then inside here, I'm going to just import the node form data of this, sorry, important here. So I'll just copy this and I'm going to set here to browser form data or node form data. Then now we need to say if should use browser, then I'll say form data is equals to new form data. Then else we just say form data is equals to new node form data like this. So now we need to also then we need to add all the files inside an array, like the way we did it inside the backend. So say array files just says files, else just put the files inside an array like this. Then we need to validate. I'll say constant validate and file type is equals to main type string. So let me just use function here. I can just define this outside. Let me cut this and let me just switch here up here. Let me change it to function. Remove this like this. Then inside here, I'll just say if main type, if main type, and then not allow. So let's import not allow. Let's go into the constant. So constant. Okay, file type here. So I'll copy this and then we're going to index.tx, then paste it here. So let me just import this here. I'll say dot include main type Okay. Okay, let me just go back. Let me go back. Let me scroll down. Let me copy this. Okay, let me just set this to like this. You can just say as this. This is okay. So I just import this in. Or we can just pass it here. This is fine. So I'm just going to just open this here. String. Okay. So now we need to also get inside here. If not, we can just throw an error. We can say invalid file error. Import that from errors. Let me move this to the top. And then inside here we just say let me remove this and let's say file type. I'll just define the main type here. Copy this, paste it here. I'll just say is not allowed like that. So yeah, I'm just going to say let's open this. I'll just say allowed types. I'll just say allowed dot join like this. This is okay. So let me just remove this. Okay, I don't want this to throw an error. So that is it. So I'm just going to copy this and let's just come down here. Then let's use the follow. Say follow constant file of file array. I say if type of file is equals to string and it's not should use browser, then we can just say validate file by this. Then inside here we're going to use a dynamic way to import to get the fx. So I'll just say constant read stream. We'll say await import fx, and then inside here we can just say create read stream, and I will say constant stream is equals to create read stream, and we'll just pass in the file. Now we can just append it. We just say form data as node, as node form data dot append files and the stream like this. So now this is going to only work if we didn't pass this and the file is string. So yeah, that is where we are trying to upload file from a Node.js, from a normal Node.js script or file, normal Express server like this. So I'm just going to say else. Let's do else here. Else if file instance, file instance of buffer and not is not should use browser. Then we also need to say if form, and I will say form data. So instance of node form data like this. Then let's just open a tag. Then inside here, we're going to say form metadata file as any. Then we can say file metadata.type. Then we can just say form data dot append. And then we can say files and pass in the file. Then we need to also define the file name. We say file name file metadata dot name. Else you just give this default file dot bin like this. So this is going to be a generic name in case the file name is missing. So I'm going to say content type. Content type is going to be file metadata dot type, and this is also going to be like default application slash stream like this. And then we also have we can just say the non-length file metadata dot size like this. So once we do this, let's now we are going to handle for the browser here. So I'm just going to say else if file instance of blob or file instance of file, and then we should say if let me just open it again. I just say if file instance of file. So we want to validate it here. We say validate type file dot type. Then we can just say form data I'll just say as form data dot append files file like this. And the last one we're going to have is let's move this down here. I'm going to say else oh else I'll say if should browser and type of file is equals to string. You can just throw an error here. We say invalid file error. Then we can just throw an error here. So when is browser is enabled use object, then we can say else if should use browser and file instance of buffer, then we can just let's just throw this in. We say buffer not supported. We can just change the message here. Just say buffer are not supported when its browser is enabled. Then we can just if these two pass, we can just throw an error here. You can throw an error if you want. just say invalid file error, invalid file like this. So I'm just going to leave it like this. So let me collapse this. Now we have this. Now let's upload the file. So we're going to do try catch. So to define the we're going to call the request. So since we have different, since we're using and fetch for browser and we're using HTTP and HTTPS uh for Node.js, so it's best for us to create a file that will differentiate between the request for browser and for Node. So I'm going to create a folder here, and I'm going to define them separate. Then I'm going to use its browser to define the request that will be sent. So I'm just going to open my SRC, and let me just call this request. Then inside here, I'm going to just say index. So tx is where I'm going to export all of them. So I'm just going to say browser.tx, and there I'm just going to just call this like request. Then I will say URL string options, upload request option. I'm just basically using the fetch here. That is from Node. So now let's define the node. I will say node request. So node dot cx, and then let's start to define this. So let me just go back to node.tx, and then let's import the node form data. So now let's also do essentially export async function request, and then let me just open this like this. So I'm going to say URL is string, and then options is upload. Then we can see upload request option. Then we can just say let me just put comma here, and then we're going to, let's say, open this and just say promise response like this. So now let's start to define it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say constant form data is equals to options dot body as node form data. And we can say constant SPRC URL is equals to new URL, and let's pass in the URL here. So if we hover over this, it should give us, this is going to so we're going to get the PS URL here. And now let's return new promise, and then let's say resolve and reject, and let's say constant request options. Now let's define the options here. We say method is going to be options dot method, and this is just basically going to be post. Let me add comma here. Then we have the host name. This is going to be we're going to PS URL dot path name. This is just basically going to be the API and the AP localhost the localhost 8000, or just have API dot example.com like that. So we have the paths. Let's say PS URL dot path name plus PS URL, PS URL dot search. So we have the port. We get the port from the PS URL. So PS URL dot port. So we can just say PS URL dot protocol is equals to HTTPS. HTTPS. Let me break this here. Then we're going to just say sorry 443 else 80. So 443 is for HTTP, while 80 is for HTTP. So we're going to just say header. Now let's define the header here. First description options dot headers. Then we also need to define the form data dot get headers. Then we just say form data dot get headers. Then we just set it to object like this. So now this will just give us some of the special headers that are required that are crucial for this upload. So we are going to now we're going to just come down here and let's say is HTTPS URL dot starts with HTTPS. There was a constant request. Sorry, request module is equals to is HTTPS. Then we're going to just use HTTPS or we're going to use HTTP. So let's import the package. So let's import it here. So I'm just going to import HTTP from HTTP. Let's duplicate this and just say HTTPS. So now like this. So now we are going to use this request module now to make a request. So the reason why we're not using fetch is because native HTTP module handles stream better for large upload and can pipe files directly without loading into the memory. So I'm just going to let's come down here and then let's say constant request is equals to request module dot we can see a request here, and then we can just pass in the request options, and then we can just say request incoming message. Let's import this too. Let me just return this. Let me see. Sorry, it's here. Like this. So now let's set the data here. I'll say let data is equals to empty string. There was a request done on request dot on says duplicates data. Sorry, yeah, data. Then we can just say chunk, and let's just return this. We say data plus equals to chunk by this. Then we can have a request dot end. We say sorry, end, not end, on, then end. Yeah. Then let's return this. Then we're going to say constant response is equals to, let's open, say okay request dot status code. Then we're going to say request dot status code is equals to 200, and request dot status code status code is less than 300. Then we can say true, else false. Let's cross down response. Sorry, this should be false. Like this. The error should stop. Then we should say status request dot status code of 500 like this. Then we can have the status text is request the status message or empty string. Then we can say JSON async, and let's return JSON don't pierce data, and then this is going to be as response like this. So we are done with this now. Let's close this. So now let's have a request dot on, and we have error. Say error, and now we can just reject pass the error in the reject method. It's a new error request failed. Let's just say error or message like this. So now below we are going to now we're going to stream upload, like we're going to send the file data in chunks instead of loading everything to the memory. So we're going to check if form data and type form data.pipe is equals to function. Then we can use the form data as a form data dot on, and we can say end, and let's return the method. Yeah. Then we can just let's just console log this and say request finish. Sorry, now request finish. Just say form data finish piping. Then we can just say request dot on finish. Let's call a method here, and let's just say console.log. Let me just copy this and then paste it here. And yeah, we should just say request finish sending like this. Then below here we need to say form data dot pipe. So we need to pass in the request. And I will say else request dot end. And now we can check if there's an error. We say form data dot on error let's console.log the error. We say form data error. Let's pass in the error. And we're going to say request or destroy. And we can just pass in rejects. New error. We say form data error. Error.message like this. So we are done with this. Let's go ahead and complete the inside the upload, not upload client. So let me just import this first. So let me go over to index.tx upload file, and then we can make use of this here now. So before we go ahead and do that, let's go into the index.ts in the request, and let's call the two of them and define them node request and browser request here. So inside the upload clients, so we're not inside the index, we can make use of them here. We just say constant response is equals to await, and we can just say should use browser. We just set browser request. Else we just use node request here. So let me just import this to copy this, scroll up, and let me just import this here. So now we are going to now so let me just open this. Now we're going to say let's pass in the URL. You say options.api URL /files/upload. So this should be like this. And then let's have comma here. I will say method post. Then headers. Then we need to pass in the authorization. And let's set this to bearer and a space, and let's pass in option.api key. And then we're going to just pass in body form data. Now the error should stop. Now we can just say if response dot okay, we can use switch here. So we're going to say response dot status. We can say 400. Then we can show a new validation error. You just say invalid request format. So let me import this error. Then I'll just remove this. Let me just copy this again. Paste it here. I'll just change this to 401. And I'll just say invalid or expired API key, something like that. So let me change this to unauthorized, yeah. Invalid, or let me just say unauthorized. API key, unauthorized access like this. Then we can have another and do another check, yeah. We can say true 413, you just say upload error. Then we can say file size too large. Let's look at this upload error here. And you can do that more and more. I'm just going to stop. So I'm just going to just paste the last ones here. Let's just import network error. And then we just have the uh, upload error, just a default upload field. So that is just okay. Now we need to return this. So I'm just going to come down here. Just say return response.json. And then if we catch any error, we can just say if error instance of upload next error, let's just throw error like this. And then if not, we just throw upload error here. As the error message or unknown error occur. So our error is to stop. So we are done with this. So we can see that our package is complete. So now we need to go into the package.json and let's also add the export. So I think I added it here. Let me go into hello world package.json and let's just copy this. Come over back to this and let's just put it here. So we have the okay. We've not export all of this inside here. So let me just paste it here. So basically we just import upload next client from upload clients. We have errors, we have the type, we also have the main type and the allowed main type. We have the default export here. So you can just, if you don't want to export this, you can just close this out. Uh, you can close any of this if you don't want to export it. So I'm just going to leave it like this. And let's go into package.json and let me just add direct. Let's just add direct this thing. Let's just say dot errors. And then let me just import this here. Paste it here. I'll just say errors like this. And then let's go into tsub config and let's add all of this here. We can just add the errors here. Sorry, slc slash errors.tx. I think like this is okay. And then let's just compile this. Then I'm also going to just set minify to true here. So I just want this to be. So the reason why I left it false is we are going to descend it with the hello world. So I'm going to set it to true. So just reduce the size of the package. So I'm just going to do that and let's try and compile this and let's see if this will work. So I'm just going to scroll down. Let me clear my terminal. And then let me see. And then let's just do npm run build. Let's see. So this has built. So let's look. We have the error. We have the type. So we don't have those folders here. So let me try and set this minify to false. And then let me try this again. Let me just run build. So see. So the reason why the folders are not showing is because it has already compiled everything. So I just set it back to true. So the folders are not showing. If you specify a constant folder here, let me specify constant here. We should be able to see the folder. So I'm just going to come here and just say dot constant dot src slash constant, and then let's try and build this again. And then if I open the disk, we should be able to see the folder now. We should be able to see the constant folder here. So just going to, I think we don't need this. It depends on what you want. So I'm just going to comment this out. Let me just save that. And let's just run build here. Let's see if this will remove. So I didn't remove it. Let me delete this. And let me just run build again. So now we can see that the package has built. So let's test this package. So to test it, we have to go over to the let's go over to Git. I already have let me open Git here. So I've opened it now. If you go over to if you come over here, click on main, then we should see I have the Next.js SDK test and the Node.js SDK test. If you click on this, you can be able to clone this and then try to use it to test the npm package. So I'm going to clone both the Node.js and also the Next.js. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy the HTTP here. And let's go ahead and clone, first of all, the Node SDK test, and then we can clone the Next.js SDK and test. It's just a simple Express server. If I click on index.js, and then if I open this, let me open this now. This should open. Okay, and we can see the code is a very simple code here. So let's go ahead and try this now. So I'm just going to go back to my code, and then let me just cd out of this, and then let me just create one here. So let's go ahead and create a folder first. So I'm going to just click here, and I'm going to just underscore Node.js test like this, and then inside the folder, I'm just going to clone inside this. I'm going to say uh cd underscore node, and I'm going to say git clone branch, and then I'm going to the branch. This is the branch name, so I'm going to just paste the repo. Yeah, I'm going to just clone this, and then they should clone the repo, the branch for us. We're going to also clone the Next.js one. So I'm just going to come over again, create a folder. I'll call this Next.js test, and then I'm going to also clone the repo for Next.js. So I'm going to cd out of node. I'm going to cd underscore Next.js. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did. I'm going to clone, but I'm going to change this to Next.js. And I'm going to just click on enter, and this should clone the Next.js for us. And this should clone the Next.js project. So you can see the Next.js and the Node.js. So I'm going to quickly move all of this code inside the Next.js, inside the Node.js test. So I'll just move everything inside here. And then I'm going to just remove this folder. So now I've moved them there. Let me close this terminal and let's go into index.js. So in index.js, I'm using this package. So I'm just going to comment this out. So I'm going to be using our very own package. Let's quickly install all of this. So I'm just going to go into package.json. I'm just going to remove this. Then just install all of this here. So I'm just going to open my terminal, and then I'm going to cd out of Next.js. Then I'm going to cd into Node.js test. I'm going to say npm install, and this is going to install all of this. So I'm going to split my terminal so I can start running the backend. So I'm going to run this here. So I'm going to cd out of this. Then I'm going to cd into backend. I'm going to say npm run dev here. And this is run our backend server for us. Then this has installed. So now we need to add our package SDK inside the um, inside the node test. So I'm going to install that. So I'm going to say install npm install. I'm going to just say dot SDK, and then this should install the package inside this. And you should be able to see if I scroll down. I think I should. Okay, you can see upload next SDK, and you can see that here. Then that is it. So let's quickly import this. So I'm going to go back into the index.js, and then instead of importing this, I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm going to just change this to upload next. Then I'm going to just say SDK here. And if I hover over this, we can be able to see the upload next client. And then once you upload that, we need to say client, upload next client. Then we need to also provide, so let me just remove this. There we can just set its browser. I think because you are using JS, so we're not able to see this. So let me just hover this now. We should be able to see. It should give us option. You can see upload next client option. We can provide its browser here. You can set it to true, but this is not browser, so I'm just going to just remove it. Then we need to also provide the upload next API key. So I'm just going to do that here. So let me just create .env. So I'm going to just paste it inside. So I've pasted the upload next API key. We're going to define it. So now let's go ahead and create the API key. So I'll go to my browser, and then let's go to Postman, or we can just quickly go over to the app itself and then create the API key. So let me just quickly create it here. So I'm just going to click on create. Let's click on create API key. Let's say test key, and then click on create, and this should create the API key for us. So I'm just going to copy this and click on done. And then inside the files, we have already these 3 files. So let's go back to the code, and then let's paste the API key here. So I'm just going to paste the API key here. So after I've pasted the API key, I'm just going to go over to uh, index.js, and we should be able to look at everything. We're using express.env to get the upload and API key. Then we're using Malta to get the memory, the file from the memory storage, storing it in the memory storage. Then we have the API upload. Then we have check if the file length. Then we also have the reject to map this format. Then you can see upload. Then you can create the buffer if you want to use the okay. Yeah, if you so we create a buffer, and then we pass the uploadables here, and then we should be able to see the response. Then below here we just have the error, and then we have the port. Then we're using port 5000 here. So let's run the server. So I'm running my backend already, localhost. So I'm just going to run this. I'm going to say npm run dev, and in the dev here, if you go back to package.json, we are using uh, node monjot index.js. So I think this has failed. So say cannot find package upload next client. So let me save this. I think I've removed it. Mm, Let me try again. Okay, server is running now. So I'll copy this, and let's go back to the browser, Postman, and let's test it out. So I'll just go back to the browser, And then I'm going to just go back to Postman and let's test it out. So I just click on, let's use this index.txt. I'm just going to replace this to 5000 API slash upload. And then here I'm just going to say post. Then it's going to be body. I'm just going to click on body, then files. Then I have an image here. Let me try and then select a different image. So I'm going to select an image here. The AWS. Then let me try and click on upload send. And let's see if this will work. So finger crossed, let's click on send. So we're having internet server error. Okay. It's saying get the error found API via upload. So I think we're having error. Let me check the API. Public API. 8000. So let me go back to the code and let's see the error here. You see API file upload. Okay, finish piping. Then request or this. So this is not okay. So let me go back into the package. Let me close backend, close this, and let's go into SDK, go into SRC, and then let's click on this and see localhost 8000 API v1. Then let me go into upload files here. Files just upload. So I found the issue. It was there. I made a mistake here. So this should be hostname. So let's save this and let me delete this and build this again. So let me open a new terminal here. Then I'm going to cd out of this here. Okay, cd inside the SDK, and then let's run npm run build. And let's click on enter, and this should build this. So go inside the Node.js index of as a node.txt, and then change this to hostname instead of path name. So now this has successfully built this. So let me go back into the node test and let me cancel this and let's install this again. So I'm gonna click on npm install and then we should run the server now. So let's go over to the browser and then let's test this again. Yeah. So I'm just going to go back to this index.txt where I pasted the node test URL server URL and the API route. So I'm just going to click on send again. Let's see if this will work. So it's calling the API and then let's wait for this to let's see if this will upload. So after some time, I noticed it was not going through. So I had to cancel the request. So I found the issue. So let's go back to the code and let's fix it. So inside the code, let me check it. If you come over to node.txt, remember we changed this to hostname. Then I also noticed that I didn't make use of the resolve. So just click on that and scroll down and then add resolve. Change, just set this to response. Then pass the resolve here. So it's going to send the response back to the client here. So once you do that, just let's go over back. Let's go to not node.js. Let me click upload file.txt. Then if you scroll down here, I change this to use buffer is buffer. Then I also add the if so that this does not have any issue if it's a plain buffer and there's no metadata, then we'll be able to just set it like this. The validation will not throw any error. So after you've done that, let's go ahead and test this again. So I'll go back to, so first of all, let me check the server is running. And I should be able to see the server is okay. Let me first of all go ahead and build this. So I'll go back to this and let me just run build here. So I'll just delete this as this and this folder, and I'm going to run npm run build. I'm just going to build the package. Then I'm going to go back to let me wait for this to build. So this is done. Let me cancel this and let me install this again. And this should install the package again for us. So now let me run the server, and this should run this localhost 5000. So let's go back to the browser. Make sure your backend is running. Then I'm going to just click on upload again, AWS, and click on upload. And let's hopefully this should work for us. So we should be able to see the result. Then let's wait for this to upload. And then we can be able to see the result. This is great. This is great. So it's working fine. So let's go back to the code and let's look at the localhost here. We can be able to see the response here, the log here, and then we can be able to see the response here. So you can see a response here, and then we can see this is coming from the SDK. We can remove this if we want. Then we can see that it's working fine. So that is it. So that is it for this for the test, node test, index.txt. So this is working fine. So we are using buffer for this. So just make sure you can just remove this here. So now let's go ahead and cancel this. So I'm just going to go into nextjs.txt. So come out from this. I'm going to cd underscore nextjs, and let's write npm install, and this should install all the packages for us. So I'm going to close this and then let's go into app. So we have the app page.txt, and inside here you should be able to see we are selecting the files, response and loading. And if I collapse this two here, you should be able to see the input. This will just loop through the files and just show us the images. Then this is the button that upload the files, the two button, and then this will give us a response here. So inside the API, if we go into API, we have a upload route, and then we can see, let me change this to this browser. So we're going to say this is browser, so like this. Let's go ahead and install this. I'm just going to change this to SDK. Then inside the action, click on index.txt. Let's change this to SDK and change this to its browser like this. So now let's try and okay, still installing the packages. So let's wait for this to install. So this has installed completely. So now let's install SDK. So I'll say npm install .sdk, and then it should install the package inside. Now you should be able to have the package, and you should be able to see. Let me go into route. Then the package adjacent, you should be able to see it now. Okay, then show inside here. So by the error has stopped, we can hover over this and we should be able to see the where it's pointing from. So now we have this, and then inside the API, we are using form data. Then we're getting the files, we are validating. Then we're going to use clients to upload files, and then we're going to return the response here. Similar to the one in action, we can see upload next client. We're doing the same thing there too. So what we need to do is to go back to the node test, and let's copy the env. Then come over here and let me paste this here, and then we should be able to have this here. So now let's try and then run the server for this. So let me run the server. I'll say npm run dev. and this should run the server for us. So it should, okay. Okay, so I'll just copy this localhost 3000, and then let's go to the browser, and then let's test this here. So I'll just paste it. So if I go over to my upload, um, the app itself, I should be able to see the AWS here, and we can see the file. So I'll just paste this here, localhost 3000, and then this is going to load the server. So now if I were to load the files, so I'm going to just inspect this. So let me put the inspect here. Then let me just collapse this. So let's test this. I'm going to select the file. So let me just select something different. So I selected NPM. You can select two files here. Then let's test with the API route. So I'm going to click on this and let's see. So you can see sending the form data. Let's wait for this to upload. So it fails. So let me go back to the code. Let's see what happens. It says unauthorized. So we're able to see the file, and we're passing the file inside client upload files. And yeah, we're not able to even see the file. So let me try and go back to the SDK again. SDK, then go over to SLC request browser, passing the body header, and then inside the upload file index.txt, I'll scroll down to where we have the request posts. We are passing this on the body. Yeah. So why is it saying unauthorized? So I just try to pass the API key again from the env. Then I try to console the API key, and then I tested this again, and it went through. It went through. So let me try it again. So I'll just close this and let's go over to the browser, and then let's try it. So I'm just going to reload this page, and then let me choose a file here. So I'm going to choose a different file. So I've selected the file, and then let me try and click on this again. Hopefully it should work. So let's wait for this to upload, and then we should be able to see that it successfully went through. So our SDK is working on the browser and also working on the server. So let's try test the server action. Should hopefully this should work too. So I'm just going to select a file. Let me select a file here, and let me click on server action, and let's see. So hopefully this should work, and it worked. Wow, it works. So that is it. That is it, guys. So if I copy this part, and then to access the API, I mean to access this image, you have to just use localhost 8000 slash files slash, I'll paste the ID slash view and click on enter, and then this should open the file here. So basically that is it. So let's go back to the code, and then let's go ahead and publish our package to npm. So I'll go back to the code, and let me clear out some of the, so I'll just close all of this tests, and inside the SDK, and let's go into Node, and then let me remove anyway we have console log here. So let me just remove all of this. Okay, so let me just remove this like this. Let me leave it like this. Then we can just remove this, comment this out. Let's check inside the index.cx. So I'll remove this console log here. I think the package is everything is fine. So let's just cancel. Let's go ahead and change this API. So I'll go back to upload.client and let's use the API route we deploy in the previous tutorial. So I've pasted the API route here. Then let me close all of this. So inside the index, we've already export everything. So now the next thing we're going to do is to publish. And then we need to also consider something. So inside the package JSON, we have this versioning here. So in order to track every changes made, so we can create a file called change log. If you check some other packages like or extension, you'll be able to see that change log is always added in it. So change log will give allow us to know changes that was made and in every publish we make. So in order to do this, we can use a package called change set. So this will help us to update the version because once we make a changes, if we publish this package to npm and we try to publish again, npm will ask us to change the version. It won't upload, it will publish the package again until we change it. So we can either make this if it's a bug fix, we can modify this to say okay 1.0.1. If it's a new feature, we can just set this to 1.1.0 or just like that. So let's go ahead and install change set. So I'm just going to come over to this and let's look at some example here in some of these packages I have installed here. If I click on GitHub Copilot and if you look at I think not GitHub Copilot, we can look at some example with React Redux and you can see change log. So if you hover over this, you see that this will just track. Let me hover over this. You can see extension, update history, and changes made. And if you look at the change log, we can see that this is giving different version, and then what was updated there. That just basically this is how you're going to be able to have our own change log. So I'm just go back to the code, and then let me just go into package.json. Or let me just go into index.txt and let me just open my terminal. So I'm going to cancel. So let me also cancel and let's close this. So let's open this. Let's navigate into cd out of this, and then let's cd into SDK, and now let's install change set. So let me just collapse this. So I'm just going to paste it. So it's going to be a dev dependency npm install change set CLI. Then click on enter, and this should install. So I'm going to wait for this to install. So this has installed. So the next thing we're going to do now is to set up change sets in our project. So I'll just say npx uh, change sets in its so we should initialize. So this will initialize change set, and we can see change sets here. It has created the readme configuration.json. Now let's add change sets into our project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into package.json and let me add it inside the script tag here. So inside here, so I'm going to just put a space here, and then here I'm going to use change set, and I'm going to just paste all of this here. So let me add comma here. So we have change set here. So this is when we want to set up change sets. You can just remove this if not using it once, just once. So we have version packages. This is where we want to maybe you make some update and you want to update the version. Then you just call the version. So there's no point because I've added it in the release and we can be able to see. So let me change this to npm. Sorry, instead of pm. Yeah, like this. So it's going to build first, then it's going to update the version, and then we are going to also uh it's going to publish it. So GenSet is going to publish the package to npm for us. So just save this. So we are done with this. You can also if you want to clean this, you can add let's say you forgot to use the release and you went directly to publish the package to npm. You can have pre-publish here. You can say pre-publish only, and then you want to make sure you have npm clean, and then you say npm build like this. So so you can say npm clean and npm build. So like this now, let me try and run this. I'll just open my terminal. I'm going to say npm run. Sorry, npm run change set. Let's be sure change set, and this is going to ask us which type of. Okay, I made a mistake here. So let me do that again. Change sets. Okay, this is not okay. So let me just use npx here. npx change set. Okay, yeah, we can see. So I'm going to update that to use npx. So we can see it's asking us whether it's a patch, minor, and this, and we can see it's in our current version. So I'll just pick patch, and then we need to give this a summary. So I'm just going to paste this summary here. So I've pasted it here. I'm just going to click on enter. And it's going to say, is this your desired change set? Yes, just say true. And then we can be able to see it as, let me close this. And we should see that it has updated. It should be able to, okay, it's created this. You can see initial release TypeScript support for this, and you can see patch here. So that's it. So now let's go into package JSON. You see 1.0. If for instance you want to update the version, so I'll just say npx change set version, and then we should be able to see that that's already set, as you can see 1.1 now. And if I go over to package JSON, this is when we push to npm, this is going to just update. So it's certainly till 1.1, and then let's remove this from there. So now that's it. So let's quickly add our readme.md md file. So we're going to I'm just going to paste that. So let me paste it here. So I'll just paste it. So I'm just going to change this to SDK. So I'm just going to copy this and change this everything to SDK. Okay, now SDK, uh, SDK, SDK. Yeah. So let me quickly do that. So I've updated it. I've changed the clients to SDK, and you can see all of these. I think it's SDK. So now I should be able to see this. So let me go over to JSON, and I'm going to update this. So I've added npx here, npx, and I've also added run one here like this. So this thing updates, it should have updates to the version we have here 1.01. So I'm just going to try, and so I just update package JSON. Then let me click on enter, and let me see if it's going to run this. So let's see. So it's not updating the package. So it's adding it, but it's not updating the. Let me check this. Okay. Okay, we run this now. We need to let me try and update the version. So let me use npm run version. Let me go and copy this version package. Let me see if it's let's see if it updates the package. It's showing 1.01, 1.0 something. Okay, it has updated it to 1.01. So let me check log, and we should see 1.01 here. Update changes here. So now we are done with this. No need again. So it's time for us to publish this to npm. So we need to make sure this we've added everything that we don't need to add to npm, src env, and this I think I'm going to also add change sets here. Change set, we don't need this, so I'm just going to add change sets. Yeah. Then we can also ignore if you have some test case, you can ignore that. So I think everything is okay. We have ignore. Let me save this. But for npm, for git ignore, all of this is excluded. Others are going to be pushed to npm to GitHub. But I think there's this one now. Let's release our changes to npm. So I'm just going to go over to package.json, and now let's try to run npm run release, and then let's see if this will work. This is going to build packages again. So let's wait. So it's going to publish this 1.0.1, and then we can see that it's we build a file. Okay, it's having some error. So let me just shift this here. So it's complaint failed to publish package. Okay, was normalized to. Okay, so let me just change this to. We can just change this to URL. Let me remove this. .com https. So let me let's see. Why is if you say you must sign up for private package? Oh, I'm already logged in. I have uploaded. I don't know why it's not allowing me to upload to publish the package. Okay. So let me try and then change this package to um I already use uploaders. I don't know why it's not allowing me to publish this. Let me try it again. Still fail. So let me close this and let me add this. So I need to make this public. So I'm just going to say public publish config access public. So it's asking me for payment. Okay, you can see it's asking me for payments required there. So you must sign up for a private package. So let me try and then run this again. And then because I'm using this, so If you want to make this private, you will have to make payment using this at uploadness organization. So let me try and run this again, and hopefully this should work. So let's wait for this to run. Okay. So we're waiting for it to load. So it's going to remove the you should remove the this folder. Okay, it has published it. So we can see new tag 1. So we have the package already deployed when published to npm. Great. So now I'm going to push this to my repo. So let's go over to the browser and then let's uh, let's look at it in npm. So I'm just going to go into npm and say hello tab. So let me go back to packages and then let me go into upload next, and then you should see upload next as slash SDK. Now you can just see copy this and we can see the GitHub URL and you can see everything that I added here. So so that is it. And we can see the source code here and the dates folder here. So let's get back. Let me create a repo on GitHub and publish it. So I'll just go to GitHub. And then let me create a repo here. So I can just call it, I think I call it uploadness SDK. You can call it anything. Yeah, I'll just call it file storage, or let me just leave it here. So let's first of all go back and to the code. So I've given its name like this. I don't know. I just give it a name like this, but we should just have SDK. So I just want to give it like so. Then I'm going to set this to public, and I'm going to click on create. And then they should create a package for us. So let's quickly add all of this. I'm just going to copy all of this, and then let's head over to the code. And then inside here, we are going to just open our terminal, and then let me just paste it here. So let me just remove this and click on enter. So let me do init first, and then I'm going to just okay. Let me first say commit. Okay, why is not okay? Okay, I need to say git add first, and then commit. Then I'm going to add the remote, and then we can publish this to okay. Let me switch to npm git branch npm main, and then let's push this. So let me just do git push update origin main and click on enter, and then wait for this to push. So this has already pushed to, we have published it or pushed this to our GitHub. So that is it. So let's go over to GitHub and let me just reload this. We should also see the package here for the SDK. You can go ahead and change the URL in the package because I use a different one here. So guys, that is it for this video. We have successfully created this package already, and you can go ahead and test it out. So So that is it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel.